good. Hi, it's been a month since I've been with you guys. We always take off the first meeting in July because it's after budget season and it's around the holidays, so people are trying to take much deserved breaks and rest and vacations. So anyway, we're back and there's a lot. We have a pretty packed agenda tomorrow, but the big thing obviously is we're going to be doing our public hearing and our first vote on the tax rate, which we will talk about that later. But just so you know that we are having our meetings at the community center tomorrow, not at the city courtroom. Just, you know, in case we have several folks who want to come for that meeting, for the public hearing, so that we have enough space for everybody. So just make note of that. And also our work session is starting at 4:30 instead of 5 o'clock because the agenda is so long. You know, there's positives to taking a little break, but then you got to make up for that time. So first item, all of these items except for there's a presentation and then there's 2 ordinances later on in the agenda. All of the rest of these items are going to be under our consent agenda. So as long as we can get through discussion of everything in the work session, then we will just be voting on everything all at once in the consent agenda on the regular meeting. So the work session is where really there's going to be like all of the meat of conversation around all of the agenda items. And we've got quite a bit going on. The first item is our CFO is going to just report on the capital outlay note that we just took out. That was $100,000 to pay for police cars. I think it was 4 of them. So we already signed off on that. She's just going to be going over that official capital outlay note. And then item 2 is a presentation from TPL, so Trust for Public Land. They are going to be presenting with our Parks and Rec manager, Jeffrey Graby, on all the work that they have partnered with us on so far in Red Bank, all the projects that they have helped us with. And then they are going to talk about some future projects that they are already assisting us with and giving guidance on. But all the work that they're going to be doing for us around the field, Godsey Ridge, and other parks, trails, and rec improvements and additions throughout the city. If you want to go ahead and take a look at that's actually uploaded in I think it's the regular meeting agenda packet on the website, redbanktn.gov. So if you want to take a look at that before the meeting, just to kind of get a feel for it, you can go ahead and do that. And then the next item on the agenda is for us to vote. We did budget for this in the budget that we just passed, to vote for, authorize an on-call Parks and Recreation Support Service contract, and that is going to be with Trust for Public Land. There were some other organizations that put in a response to the RFQ, but after a review, and they had a rubric that staff operated from TPL matched with all of that criteria the best, and so we are going to be entering into that contract with them, and it's going to be $50,000 for the year, and that's going to include recreation support services, policy advising, land management best practices, private sector fundraising to support public acquisition and protection of parks, trails, and green spaces, as well as other general supports. So if you guys didn't know already, TPL has just been like tremendous for us in partnership. They helped us finish Stringers or the White Oak Connector Trail after years and years just sitting there undone. So not to mention all the other things that they have come alongside us with on. So I'm very excited to continue that relationship with them. Item 4 is approve an interlocal agreement with the City of Chattanooga not to exceed $10,000 relating to the Stringers Ridge Trail System. And that has to do with basically there's nobody who is hired to perform regular maintenance on that trail. And then you guys might have seen that there were some fires in that area. So we are contributing $10,000 toward what the work that Chattanooga is primarily doing to help with some maintenance of the Stringers Ridge Trail system. Item number 5 is authorize an application to, and if awarded, acceptance of the Placemaking Grant for up to $25,000. This is a grant that's being offered by the Greater Chattanooga Area Realtors, and specifically what we are going to be applying for it for is for additional shade structures at the White Oak Dog Park. So cross your fingers for us that we are awarded that grant, because I know we definitely need some additional shade over there. And all through the park, you know, as we know, it's built on a landfill, and we can't plant deeply rooted trees that would grow and give us some canopy and shade. So we'll do what we can. Item 6, approve a contract with Clarion Events for fire engine training program for the fire department for an initial amount of $5,345. After that first installation, it's going to be a yearly subscription of $4,300 a year to access that training program. They just feel like they can get more out of it and get what they need out of it than the one that they have now. So we'll be voting on that. Item number 7, I'm excited about. We are going to be appointing Pete Phillips to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I don't know if you guys remember Pete. He was just with us last fall in the past 4 years as the city commissioner. And he, fully retired from work and everything. And so he was ready to kind of just step away from these kinds of commitments. And he did a lot for our community the past 4 years. But he's going to come back and serve in that capacity, in a volunteer capacity, again on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So very grateful for him to still wanting to be involved with the goings-on of our city. Item number 8, authorize the City of Red Bank to enter a contract in an amount not to exceed $204,000 with Big Woody's Tree Service for the White Oak Park Detention Pond Restoration Project. That $204,000, by the way, is coming from our ARPA funds, so our American Rescue Plan Act funds. That was already allocated when we did that allocation back in whenever that came out. 22, I think, the spring of 22. And so we've just now gotten around to where we could put out an RFP for it. And they won the bid. So what's really exciting, and I can't remember, I've got to figure out, it's probably been there, that detention pond has been there for, I think, around 20 years or so. If somebody's on here and knows the exact number of years and wants to share that, let me know. But I think it was around 20 years, and it's never been maintained, ever. It's not actually supposed to hold water like it does year-round, so it's not functioning the way that it was originally intended. So once this restoration project is complete, it should not hold water anymore. It should hold it, and then it should, absorb back into the surrounding area. So that's really exciting. So like I said, that's not coming from general fund, that's coming from the ARPA funds. And then item number 9, authorize a 3-year subscription agreement. This is with a software application that we are going to use for our capital improvements planning. Our staff have been looking and interviewing different companies and trying to figure out what the right route is for us, for our city. Leslie Slay, our community development director, you guys have always heard me call her Leslie Johnson. She has legally changed her name to her married name, and so she is going to be Director Slay from now on. So you're going to, if you hear me say that, know that that's formerly Director Johnson, Director Slay, the same person. She is going to talk to us about this application, but it's $15,000 a year, and it's initially for a 3-year subscription for them to build out the capital improvements plan, which has been a long time coming. It was not budgeted for because at the time of the budget process, she had not located this software. So this $15,000 is going to be coming from the general fund, unbudgeted, but for future years, it will be worked into the budget. Item number 10, approve resolution for pavement marking near State Route 8 in conjunction with the late notice TDOT project. So this is the TDOT project you may have heard some hubbub about it. We're doing it basically in collaboration with, not in collaboration, but TDOT is restriping all of State Route 8, which is from Signal Mountain Road all the way, continues down Cherokee Boulevard. So it's in Red Bank and in Chattanooga. And they've had the restriping and resurfacing on their list to happen this year for some time. And so we are going to be restriping our side from the tunnel to Signal Mountain Road down to 3 lanes. So it's going to be a dedicated northbound lane, a dedicated southbound lane, and then a dedicated turn lane in the middle. And there are going to be protected bike lanes on both sides of that stretch. But this agenda item is for us to continue those restriped lanes a little further past Signal Mountain Road going north on Dayton Boulevard, just for flow and efficiency. And so they'll be talking about that more specifically tomorrow at our meeting, but it's not covered under the TDOT restriping resurfacing, so we have to pay extra for that. So that's a little over $35,000, but that's coming from our state street aid fund. It's not coming from our general fund, and it was budgeted for in the budget we just voted on. I'm really excited about that, guys. There's also another project. This is not related to this vote that's happening tomorrow, but I had somebody make a comment about something online, and so I let them know about this other upcoming project that we have on the complete north end of Red Bank, from Browntown Road to Gad Road. That stretch of Dayton Boulevard later this year should be getting started with a complete resurfacing and restriping project, and we're doing the same thing up there. We're right sizing it down to 3 lanes, 1 northbound, 1 southbound, and a dedicated turn lane. There won't be bike lanes or anything like that striped right now because this TDOT project is from early 2020, so we're going on, by the time it gets started, it'll be 5.5+ years. It was in queue before I was ever even elected, and we're only just now getting to it. So people ask questions about, why can't we get this here or that there? Well, we can't even really put sidewalks up there right now, the way there's 5 lanes. We have a Strode running through our city, and so we have to do that piece first. That project, like I said, has already been in queue. After that is when we can look at planning for sidewalks to come in to where there will now be a wide shoulder, where people can, walk or bike in more safely than they can right now because there isn't really any shoulder. There's certainly no sidewalk except for in front of Hartman Hill, which that project got approved before I got elected, but in the final design phase, we were able to ask them to add that stretch of sidewalk in front, and they agreed to that. So we got them to add the only stretch of sidewalk that exists north of Browntown Road. But the goal is to connect to that. But we have to do this restriping first. That's going to happen in the fall, like I said. And I'm just really excited about this. It's going to slow traffic down to a safe speed for everybody, and also going to open it up for other users who travel in different ways, different modes of travel to get through there a little more safely. So that's going to be happening on our very south end of our city limits and our very north end. And then, we'll be looking at other places where we can look at right-sizing Dayton Boulevard, because we just had that study done that was TDOT grant funded, where Barge Design did the right-sizing feasibility, and they determined that with traffic counts and everything, we do meet that criteria for all of Dayton Boulevard. So that's definitely we're going to keep having conversations about that, and it's just going to have to be done in phases, and sidewalks added in phases and those kinds of things. Item 11 is approved purchase of a tractor from Chattanooga Tractor for Public Works Department, not to exceed $166,650. So our tractor has been in the shop more than it hasn't lately, and it's run its course. So we budgeted for this, and we're just going to be making that purchase. That's the big one that like mows the right-of-ways, that has the big arm, the boom on the side. So it definitely gets pretty beat up, I would imagine, doing its job. So yeah, so we're going to be buying a new one. Item number 12. So those were all consent agenda items that I just went through. It was a lot. So if we, like I said, if we can get through discussion of those during the work session, then we will just be able to vote on all of those together in the main meeting, the regular meeting. If we don't, we'll probably end up pulling them out just so we can have discussion and explain some details about the actual agenda item. So now these next 3 items, which are the final 3 items on the work session, these will actually be happening separately from the consent agenda. So the first one is just a presentation of a certificate of recognition. Senator Bo Watson, who is one of our senators in Red Bank, is going to be there presenting this recognition of our 70th anniversary as a city. Item number 13 is our public hearing and presentation of the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 26. And that is proposed right now at 98 cents. That's what's in the ordinance that we're going to be voting on tomorrow. There is a public hearing associated with that, and we do 2 votes on that. So tomorrow will be the first reading, and then we'll have the second and final reading on August 5th, I think. So yeah, we already had a lot of discussion about the taxes and revenues with the budget, but we didn't vote on a tax rate yet because we got the certified tax rate back from the state too late to publicly notice it and vote on it with our budget. So that's why we had to do these totally separate meetings for the tax rate. So 98 cents up from the certified tax rate, which was 0.8968. So it's an increase, I think, of like 9.2%. A lot of which is inflation, almost all of which is inflation from the past couple of years. And, you know, we're happy to have comments and questions and concerns brought up tomorrow. We have had some folks bring them up. The vast majority of our community is going to see a decrease in their Red Bank taxes, even with this amount going up. And it just really has to do with like how those assessed values are calculated. And then because our commercial and our railroad property owners pay more, they pay 40% and then 55%, and the utilities pay 55%. Residential only pays 25% of their assessed value. So, yeah, so I have a calculator. If you want to know what yours is, you can just send me your address and I can look it up and send it to you. I can even send you what's going to happen with your Hamilton County taxes. That's where a lot of us in Red Bank, unfortunately, are going to see our tax bill go up some or a good bit because our home values increased high above the average from across the county. So, yeah. It's great to live here. It's wonderful to live here in Red Bank. Our property values are booming. But also, the assessed values went up considerably this year, and I don't know about the methodology that was used by the property tax assessor's office, but I don't know if you guys knew this, the property tax assessor is an elected position. So anybody can run who feels very passionately about serving their community and maybe building more trust and transparency with how they do things like that. That's a position that you can run for in Hamilton County. And then the final item is our public hearing and first reading for rezoning of 223 Cliftview Drive. So this is a property that is, if you're like on Easton heading toward like Lupton, there is a street there on the right that's called Cliftview, and it's up on a hill, and I walked that hill when I was knocking doors, and it is rough. I actually called my husband and asked him to come get me, and he couldn't. So I had to do it. But there's a property, there's a lot of the properties that are on that street, most of them are duplexes. And there's one that is currently a duplex, but they have a basement unit that they're wanting to refurbish and turn it into a triplex. So they are requesting this rezoning from R2 residential to R3 residential because triplexes, I guess, are considered like multi-family beyond a duplex. So they don't fall into the R2 zoning. So it was already recommended by the Planning Commission. Our staff technically didn't recommend it, but it's only because they were at the time going off of our old land use plan and zoning ordinance that was adopted in 2014. We just adopted our comprehensive plan, but at the time that they were hearing this, it was before we adopted the comprehensive plan, and knew that that was going to be guiding us toward a revamp of our zoning ordinance, because just right now it's just very restrictive, and it was written to be that intentionally so. So technically staff had to recommend against it because they, it didn't align with current ordinances in place, but it aligns with the spirit of our comprehensive plan, and that is why the Planning Commission voted to approve it. So this is very gentle, density increasing, and these are the kinds of things that we really want to see in the community because, yeah, we only want so many of any type of property, residential property, right? But if the home is going to look exactly the same, you're going to add like a car for one person or two people to live there, and it's already operating as a duplex, like, why wouldn't you? That's my own feelings and opinions on it. So I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody or the commission. I'm just speaking as myself, Stefanie. But it's just a really great way to add additional housing units in our community, very gently. That's a good way to phrase it. So that's it. That's a lot. So if you guys don't have any questions, I will probably go because it is like 8 billion degrees out here. Anyway, don't forget, tomorrow our work session starts at 4:30. Our regular meeting is still at 6, but both are being held at the community center, not the city courtroom, which I think they had a sign there last time, so if you go there by accident, but just try to spread the word if you know anybody who might be trying to come, that they need to go to the community center. So I hope you guys have a great Monday night, and I'll see you tomorrow at 4:30 at the community center.